just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to another episode of the Believe in NFL Draft Prospects podcast. I am Joe DeLeon, joined by Ryan Roberts and Alex Gilstrap. We have a ranking show today after a long linebacker week. We're also then going to transition to a little bit of a break. I'm going on vacation. But before we get to that break, we want to share our top 5 linebackers in the same fashion that we've done on the previous shows. If you've missed the other position groups, go check them out. We've dissected this group a ton, but it seems like the resounding thought in this class, quality group, there's some really nice quality names, day 1, day 2, that could be impactful starters, as well as some guys that have some interesting upside that we're going to continue to dive into today.
Yeah, no, I would agree completely, Joe. I mean, there's a few guys that I'm not gonna say them out loud because then you guys will kind of have more of an understanding of who might be my top 5. But there was a lot of guys that I just did not get to that I'm very interested in.
Same.
So, yeah, R.I.P. Peyton Wilson, man. R.I.P. Peyton Wilson. Just injuries and getting arrested and all good stuff.
Oh,
so,
he's off the board?
Oh man, he's off the board. Yeah,
I was going to ask about that. Is like, where do we slot him? I didn't watch him because I kind of was in that mental state that you are, where it's like, is it really worth it?
So he got hurt in 2021 in the first game, and he's had now multiple shoulder injuries, and
Bad
he's
for a linebacker.
He's missed like 2 seasons, like basically the whole seasons now during his college career, and he was arrested during his freshman year as well. So like, nah, it's not going to happen. But his film in 2020 was fantastic. But like, what do I do with that? You know, like it's a little tough. But he's a good football player if he ever gets past those issues. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like this linebacker class this year is really interesting because at the top, I think you see a lot of your underclassmen. You typically do at a lot of positions. But I'm really, really interested because there's a lot of names down the board that are 5th, 6th year seniors for that COVID year that I feel like we've been talking about for 2-3 plus years. And it's that age old story of when are they going to put it all together and take that step forward. And I'm wondering if we're going to talk about if y'all are going to bring, or I'm going to bring any of those guys up, but it's a weird class. So there's a lot of names there that I recognize from years previous watching summer film, some that I didn't even get to watch their 2021 stuff as we talked about pre-show. But overall, I think this is honestly a better class than the average at the position. I really don't mind the top. I think we have a handful of guys that are top 50, potential type guys going into next year's draft. So I'm interested to get y'all's thoughts because I haven't listened to y'all's breakdown episode so far. I usually go back after the fact.
Joe and Alex, can we do a quick game? Let's do a quick game.
Let's play.
What's the game?
Tell me. You don't tell me in order, obviously, but what conferences are your players from?
Conferences, SEC, Big 10, and American.
Same.
Oh, you totally. I was saying this when you got up, Ryan.
Yes.
I know for a fact my number 5 guy you have on your list. Then, if you have an American guy, yes.
You think so?
Is it a very random school?
Oh wait, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking Atlantic Coast Conference. No, I do not have an American.
Okay, never mind.
American Athletic Conference. I do
Alex,
not have an AAC.
What do you have?
I have SEC in no order. I have SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Pac-12.
Interesting. So
I
the
know,
Washington kid did make it onto the list.
I know. Joe, I know who the AAC kid is, I think.
Okay, when we get to me, you're going to guess it, and then we'll see.
Okay.
Alex is going to kick us off as he did last week again with his 5th-ranked guy. Before we do, though, I want to tell you folks about Bet Online. Betting for baseball's back. This is being released a few days after we're recording this, and I'm back into my full swing of betting. Still not a big baseball fan, which kind of hurts to say with Alex here tuning in the Brave Stadium.
Yeah, you know what? I actually started listening to one of the episodes. I don't know which one it was, which breakdown linebacker episode I started earlier this morning, but y'all started hating on baseball, and y'all mispronounced It's not Jose Rodriguez that was in the home run derby. It's Julio Rodriguez. Y'all kept saying Jose.
I'm a
Good
jackass.
job, Joe.
Well, I'm still
Good
pissed
job.
because it still cost me money. I was gonna win $140, man.
Maybe you would have won that bet if you knew what his name was.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, you probably put it for the wrong name.
Well, if you're like me and no, I didn't. Because I know Soda won. There wasn't another Rodriguez participating. If you're like me and you're a hack and you don't pay attention to baseball, but you somehow still bet on it, and you want to have some fun while you're waiting for the football season to get back, go to Bet Online, which has all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including Major League Baseball, latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, guys. Alex, we're going to start us off here with your number 5 player for the 2023 linebacker class. Who you got?
Yeah, my number 5 player is going to be a little bit more of a wild card, and it's more of just I'm putting my stamp on this guy, question mark here. And that's someone I talked about last year, really liked. We've already hinted at it. University of Washington's Ede Fuan Ulofocio. Someone
Did we
that
figure out if that's the 100% right pronunciation.
First name
You've had
I
a
don't-
year.
Now.
It is Ulofocio. I know for sure. Last name, first name, I wasn't very confident. I just went with it. This guy just really understands. He reads the play in front of him really, really well. He just has great eyes, and I think at the linebacker position, we bet on traits in this industry, looking at prospects, but I just feel like eyes are such an underrated aspect of the linebacker position over, athletic traits. You just see those guys translate better usually at the next level over the last handful of years at least. And I just feel like he really understands where the ball is at. He fills run gaps, exactly where he needs to be. He's someone that's always where he needs to be. And I don't see too many athletic limitations in this game to think, this is a good college player without having some success at the NFL level. The only question mark with him for me right now is the injury he's coming off of. He had an injury riddled 2021 season, put him out for the season, which caused him to come back. He's going to be the veteran on that Washington defense. And I'm just really, really excited to see what he does fully healthy, because I remember this time last year when talking about the linebacker position, I had him top 3 going into that year. Obviously falling a little bit further back is a testament to the top of this class, but also, injury, question marks there is in that valuation as well. But I'm really, really excited to see what Ulofocio has.
Just a quick thought before I know Ryan's going to give a good background on him. It's kind of funny how these Washington guys last year, and the team in general, I think we had high expectations for. Like, I think of him and Jackson Kirkland. And there were plenty of guys that we talked about in last class from Washington. Not so much that they all underwhelmed, but it's kind of funny that we're back here again talking about a lot of these same guys that were from that Washington team that is now under a completely new direction.
Yeah, at least Kalen DeBoer is in now. He's got to be better than what was the last one? Jimmy Lake, right? Was that
terrible?
Yeah, he's a really good defensive back coach, but he's just not a head coach. So cool tidbit on Ulofocio. Joe, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Unranked recruits walk on from Alaska.
My man was training by
built tough,
chasing fish,
chasing
dude,
elk.
He was fighting polar bear, dude. Like,
Are there polar bears in Alaska?
No,
there's not. It's a joke. But
went over
Like,
Joe's
that's
head.
It didn't go over my head. I'm questioning it. That was a weird joke.
Joe,
If there's no
Joe,
polar bears in Alaska.
Fine. He was diving in the ice cold water and fighting orcas. Is that better for you?
Yes, it's a lot
Okay,
better.
awesome. He's chasing penguins. Is that better for you, sir?
Yeah, I don't
There's
know.
no
If
penguins in Alaska either.
Holy crap!
It's a joke. Holy
Be
shit!
better.
Go watch Animal Planet. Jesus. Joe, can I guess your guy now? You have an AAC guy, right?
Yeah.
Nick Hampton from App State.
It is not Nick Hampton. My guy at number
The heck
5.
is this? Okay.
Dorian Williams from Tulane. So Dorian Williams, I watched. I know Ryan hates this one.
I don't
Dorian
hate it.
Williams,
I liked Dorian Williams last year, but go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so Dorian Williams I watched. We didn't have a lot of film on him, but I flipped him on against Oklahoma, and he wasn't on the field the entire game. They kept rotating him with the various sub packages that they use. But he was fun to watch. I think he's got a really nice build. I don't think he's a super twitchy athlete like some of these other guys that we're going to talk about that we've discussed so far for this linebacker grouping. But I think he's got deceptive strength. There was one play at the goal line where I watched him take on a blocker and a ball carrier and stop forward progression by the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage. So despite not being a massive linebacker, has some deceptive strength to him. And the other thing, too, that just I was attracted to is him being a really clean tackler. It's very hard to shake a guy like this. And I thought he had very, very nice instincts. I think there's some projection with some of the other guys on my list, some of the other guys that we're going to bring up on this show because of some deficiencies in instincts. And maybe they're a little bit more traits. I think he's less traits, more polish, and that's why I liked him. I think he deserves to be in the discussion. And heck, I would take him a late day 2 after some of these other guys, like round 3. I think he's somebody you can plug in and could play Will, or I mean maybe even Mike. He moves well, and again the instincts is a big thing for me.
That's an interesting one. So Joe, I liked him last year because he was a guy that was draft eligible for the 2022 NFL draft, and he actually played a lot of like overhang and in space during the 2020 season. I haven't seen any of the 2021 though. That's why I just don't have enough context for that one though. But
Joe, I've not watched him. I'm excited. I like that you went out on a limb on someone different because I didn't even know that name, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I stumbled onto him and I'm like, instead of watching, I wrote down I was going to watch Nick Herbig, and then I was like, instead of Herbig, I'm going to watch Dorian Williams and watch a small school guy, and I really liked him. There's one clip I'm going to post later, albeit it was against a receiver, but this receiver came up to try and block him, and he absolutely like decleats him just with like a little bit of a pop. Like it's just like a quick punch to get him off. But this, was 17 Marvin Mims?
For Oklahoma?
Yeah. It was.
Yep.
He completely plants Marvin Mims with like the lightest punch. So like that was one thing that was like, oh, I'm so in on him. I love this.
Marvin Mims is a little guy, so it makes sense.
Guy.
That was that was my favorite moment, Joe, when wide receivers would try to block you and you just laugh at them. So it's my favorite thing ever.
Right.
Number 5 for me. I'm going to the SEC, Joe, not the AAC. I got Owen Papoe from Auburn as my 5th ranked guy. 6 foot, 224 verified. Odd body type though, because you're like 6 foot, 224. All right, smaller guy. Joe, he has a longer wingspan than Jack Campbell. He's got 33 and 33 and 3/4 inch arms, so nearly 34 inch arms, and has a 79 inch wingspan.
Holy
which
crap.
is both longer than Jack Campbell, who is 6'4" and 3/8. So this guy's got length to him. He doesn't have height, but he has length. Yeah, and he's a former 5-star, really athletic kid, estimated somewhere 4.5s in the 40-yard dash. Twitchy dude, changes direction well, and his eye discipline's pretty good. There's gonna be some limitations as far as like stacking at the point of attack because he's a little bit of a smaller guy, and he's actually more. His play style screams more Mike to me than Will, which makes him a little bit of an odd player, but I like Owen Papoe. He's a really nice mover, has physicality to him, and has some length. So he's not going to miss a ton of tackles because not only does he have speed, he also has a huge tackle radius. So Owen Papoe is a fun watch out of Auburn, which he's a weird one because former 5-star recruit who doesn't really get talked about much, and he's played a lot of football for Auburn. So get him on your radars a little bit. I think he's a good football player.
Yeah, he's also the captain of, I think, that side of the football as well for Auburn, which at the linebacker position is always a check box there. And I think he's one of the leaders in that Auburn locker room. So I know he's done well in the NIL. I see his name more in NIL than I do as him as a prospect, which probably is, to your point, Ryan, he's not talked about enough on the field. But yeah, he's a good, fun football player. I like him in coverage. I think he's going to project well as a coverage backer. A little undersized, but with that length, I think he has the athleticism and length to do some damage in space as a coverage defender.
It's super funny how many prospects Auburn has, but they're just still not a very good football team. Number 4, coach him. Number 4. Let's go back to you, Alex. Who do you have at number 4?
Number 4. Going back into the well of guys I liked last year, I had this guy ranked number 1 last year. Ryan, do you remember this?
Let me guess.
Yep.
Jack Campbell.
Yeah. Do you remember us talking about Jack Campbell this time last year?
Yep,
Jack Campbell, he's I love the size, athleticism. I feel like right now he's a good football player. But with that size and athlete, I'm not going to say he's like an obscene athlete, but he is 6'4". He's massive on the football field. I think he plays really well in coverage, and I think he's pretty loose as an athlete. I don't think he's ridiculous, like I said, but he's loose as an athlete. I just really like watching Jack Campbell. I think he plays football, and he comes down and he doesn't hesitate against contact. He plays well in coverage. He really is a 3-down backer, and that's what I really, really like about him. And I think his size profile projects to having more upside than what's been tapped into at Iowa so far. Because I know he was a little under recruited. I went last year. I remember going back and talking about that, how Iowa was basically the best landing spot for him. Don't know if he was from Iowa or not, but
Yes, he was.
He then fitting enough. But no, Jack Campbell's got the athletic ceiling, I think, with his already floor that's in place as him as a current football player. I think this guy can walk in as a rookie and play meaningful snaps and play every down at the NFL level.
See that, Alex? I listen, man.
Meanwhile, you do. I'm glad you remember that.
When we're giving context and we're giving, our analysis on players, Joe just goes on his phone and he completely turns us off.
Listen, sir. Shut up.
Listen.
Shut up.
Listen. And Joe, it's a perfect segue because I also have the Hawkeye Hammer at number 4.
Is that his nickname?
No, I just made it up.
It is now.
It is now.
You got to tell them to put it on a shirt.
Yeah, I mean, in the world of NIL, absolutely, man. The Hawkeye Hammer, I would buy a shirt that said the Hawkeye Hammer, if I'm being honest. But Alex, I owe you an apology.
Yeah,
I remember last year I made fun of your Jack Campbell stuff because he hadn't played much in 2020. He'd only played a couple games.
Ryan's a hater.
And he played a lot last year and had 143 tackles. And he's got 6'4" and 3/8. He's 248 pounds. And I just called him the Hammer because that's exactly what he is, man. He gets downhill. He has very bad intent as a player. He's going to take on blockers. I think his power profile still needs to keep improving. He needs to add more weight to that frame, but he has a physical style. I think he's a sufficient athlete all the way around. I don't think he's ever going to be plus in coverage, but I think he's good enough as far as foot quickness and straight line speed to be an every down Mike. I do. And me and Joe broke him down this week. I like Jack Campbell. I would draft him in the second round. I think he's a good football player.
I think that's one of my top 50 remarks. I think that makes sense for him.
For the sake of continuity, Campbell's actually my number 3. I had him as my number 3 linebacker. I'm a little bit higher on him than I think that you guys. Actually, I'm in agreement with you guys. I just have him slightly higher on my list because I'm not as high on one particular player that I know Ryan likes.
Yes,
is
we're going to hear this one, Alex. Wait until you hear this one. Wait until you hear
the hate that I have. But just to round out Jack Campbell, because you guys hit everything. The size is immaculate. It's fantastic. He's huge, and I think that he is somebody who plugs right in, contributes early as a Mike linebacker. He's old school. He can still cover, but teams that have that old school mentality, which despite teams being progressive, are always going to like guys like this, hard-nosed, mean tackler, and that stuff is fantastic. But my number 4 actually,
I know who it is.
Is his teammate Justin Jacobs. Is that who you're gonna guess?
I'm so good.
Okay, Justin Jacobs. Though we have this long discussion on how do you project him because he was a sub package guy primarily at Iowa. Dane Belton was coming in a lot, and that took Justin Jacobs off the field. He was a pain in the ass to try and watch because it was a lot of tapping through, skipping 5 seconds, hoping that he was on the field and then trying to locate him on the field. But athletically, coverage skills are amazing. Are not amazing is maybe an extreme word to use, but they're really good. They're polished because that was a lot of what he was asked to do was to play in coverage. He's somebody who can stick with and stay with receivers and tight ends if he needs to. And I like his zone drops. He's got fluid hips. The only thing that we need to see more of is him playing in the box. That role, as Ryan said on the show that we did covering Justin Jacobs, does that translate to the NFL? And I think that he's the capabilities to play Will at the next level, and he's shown that ability to track the ball down the line of scrimmage, navigate traffic, and make plays at the line of scrimmage. He shows the ability to do that, just not often enough that we can fully buy in. But I think that number 4 as a late day 2 pick is pretty realistic for Justin Jacobs.
Looks the part, man. 6'4", 238, long arms, athletic. Everything's there. It's just
Fluid.
like you said, the position is the only thing that worries me a little bit. Like, I want to see him more in a true stacked position, but the talent's all there. There's no question.
Yeah, I kind of saw him just kind of like in passing while watching Campbell more in-depthly. Didn't watch him as in-depth, but you did see the flashes in coverage, like his foot quickness at his size, his length. It shows up, and I do agree with you. You don't see him in the box. Like when it comes from the end zone cam, he's just not in the picture. He just isn't going to be. So Justin Jacobs, there were a couple of times I saw on tape where he come up on the line of scrimmage, make a play on like an outside, zone player pitch, and he'd get him in the backfield. So I don't have too much issue with his tackling ability, at least from the little bits I watched. But I do agree, more traditional role might serve him well as far as projecting him forward.
So number 3 for me, Joe, because you already dropped your 3, right?
Yeah.
So with Jack Campbell, number 3 for me is Henry To'oTo'o, who is
Oh no!
what?
You're that high on Sewell?
Oh God, Joe, are we gonna do this right now? Before I even
Yes,
give context
yes,
on
we are gonna
Henry
do this.
Sewell?
Go ahead, Henry.
I mean,
Go do Henry.
I just called him Henry Sewell because you're messing with my mind too much right now. Henry
Talk ahead.
To'oTo'o.
Okay, go ahead.
Star linebacker for Alabama, 113 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks last year in his first season after transferring to Tennessee. This is my type, man. He is 6'7", 230 pounds. He's flexible, easy mover, changes directions really well. This is your true Will. I think he can play Mike in certain situations. Flows to the football. Eyes are relatively good. Just everything's there from a talent perspective. So I'm in on Henry To'oTo'o. That's a top 50 player.
I think To'oTo'o's got it between the ears. He just understands the game of football. This is another guy we talked about last year, dating back to the summer. Didn't declare for this last year's draft, but I'm a fan. I like To'oTo'o.
To'oTo'o, and you're smirking a little bit, and I wonder. So To'oTo'o is my number 2. I hate to keep jumping ahead, but
my number 2 as well.
I don't. Okay, so we'll go in that sense, but we'll let you get to your number 3. But let's talk a little bit more about To'oTo'o because we both have him at 2. I don't want to backtrack for the sake of discussion to keep coming back to guys. But To'oTo'o, I think you guys hit the nail on the head here. He's one of those guys that you watch, and then you're like, I don't really find a whole lot wrong with him. Like, you can't really pinpoint deficiencies that concern you, and he just does everything right. He doesn't do everything at like an elite level enough where you're like, wow, this is a top 15 pick, but you watch him and everything across the board. Nice athlete, instinctive, always knows where he needs to be, is always near the football, not like crazy big, and is pretty lean was the one thing major knock that I had on him. But I like him, and I said when we did the To'oTo'o breakdown of him, the scouting report, this is somebody who I take in the top 50 players, and I could see, considering Quay Walker was a first-round pick, I could see To'oTo'o being a trade back into draft type of a player in this upcoming draft class.
Yeah, so y'all know the Madden rating's been coming out. That's all that Twitter's been talking about. To'oTo'o is one of those players that if you did an attributes grade on all the different, things you look for at the linebacker position when scouting, he's probably not going to rank in the top 3 and very much, top 5 and very much, but he's a top 3 linebacker in football, top 3 prospect. Because he checks all the boxes. He just won't be a 99 speed, 99 strength, 90. He's not going to be up there. He's not going to be one of those guys where he really excels in one specific category. But this guy just does everything right. He's always where he needs to be. He has, good athleticism, not great. He has good strength, not great. But the guy knows where to be. He's there when he needs to be. He makes plays. He tackles. He can play and cover. He can really just do it all. Just nothing about his physical, person is really wowing you.
Joe, we should do a Madden rating thing for prospects somehow. Like who has the 99 speed, who has the 99 strength. That would be fun. I'm gonna
fun.
throw it out there.
Maybe it could be like a good Twitter post from the account. Actually, now that I think about it, that could be fun.
Fun conversation.
That could be a fun conversation. Alex, we skipped your number 3 for the sake of conversation. Who was it?
Yeah, so judging off your reaction to this name, Noah Sewell, I'm assuming he's not in your top 5.
He is not my top 5, bro.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, listen, Noah Sewell gets all the hype in this class. He's the name that we've been looking forward to. He's we look forward to the Trevor Lawrence, come that year at the quarterback position. Sewell's been the linebacker equivalent as far as we've known about this guy for a couple years now, especially his brother being Penei Sewell helps. But this guy's physically a freak. I mean, that size, that explosiveness, that sideline to sideline speed that he has, downhill speed, power. This guy's pretty fun. Now he has moments of lapse, as far as understanding, play design and coverage. I'm not going to say he's a plus coverage defender or anything like that. Misses some tackles that are a little bit frustrating. But athletically, size, there's so much upside here. And if he can, it's one of those, if he can put it together, this guy has all-pro potential. I mean, he's just that kind of guy, He's got that size. They just don't make him like him.
Joe hates Noah.
This is all ceiling. I mean, right now, he's not starting in the NFL if he were to start tomorrow, based off his 2021 film at least. Because there are deficiencies in this game that NFL athletes are going to be able to exploit, especially in the passing game. But I think this guy has the makings of being really freaking good if he can put a couple aspects, just get a little better in a couple ways, passing and tackling. That's really what I need.
All right, Ryan, I'll let you talk.
I have a comp, Joe. I have a comp. He's taller, but he reminds me of Bobby Wagner. That's it. Physical, fast, aggressive, downhill. Yes, that's it.
Yeah. You have nothing else to say about him?
Alex, you should go back to our conversation because Joe and me were very opposite on Noah Sewell, which is why Noah Sewell is my number 2 linebacker in this class. What everything Alex said, I mean, this is a true Mike. I think he could do some things in pursuit though too, because he's got some nice straight line acceleration in my opinion. He has pretty good flexibility. I've seen him kind of contort his body in very different ways and be able to recover and not lose balance. And he comes with a lot of force. Now, there is some missed tackles because he goes for knockout shots a lot and it doesn't always wrap up. But I think he has superstar potential as a run stopper at the next level. I really do.
Yeah, this guy has bad intentions. And that's part of what I was commenting on. If this guy can just kind of hone it back a little bit, not try to make the superstar splash SportsCenter top 10 play, and just does what he's supposed to, which is not a physical limitation he has. It's just a mental makeup and what he wants to get out of this play. If he can just settle down a little bit, his physical gifts are going to send him to the first round. If he can just settle down and just not try to do too much and try to make the splash play all the time, this guy he's built different.
I will
Alex,
give.
Did you say that was his? Did you say that he? Sorry, Joe.
No,
I mean, Alex.
you're good.
Did you say that was your number 3, Noah Sewell?
Yeah, I love Toto. I struggle with them too.
Okay, gotcha.
Toto's floor, I just really think like he could start today in the NFL and be good. Sewell, there's a little bit more projection because some guys, they just can't make that transition from trying to be that. He has always been that superstar on the field, that guy that everyone looks at and is like, watch out for that guy. And if he can rein it back a little bit and just stay within himself, yeah, Sewell's got probably the highest potential out of anyone in this class. But right now there is a couple things missing for me, and I'm a little bit skeptical if it all comes together the way I think it could.
I believe that Simpson has higher potential than Sewell, and I understand the potential aspect of this. I see the athleticism. I think this is primarily a downhill player. There were some instances where I thought he was slower than or he's not as fast as we think he is in redirecting. There was one play in particular that stood out in my mind, and I'll go pull it if I need to, where it took him way too freaking long to redirect. And for that reason, I think he's too heavy. I think he needs to lose weight. The two big things that concern the hell out of me, and the reason why I think his floor is the reason why I would probably put him at linebacker 6. And then I said, I'm not as willing to draft this guy on day 2 as you guys are. And you guys mentioned all the things that I think should be valued more with linebackers, which is the instincts. I don't think his instincts are good enough for me to really buy into, to ignore based on how athletic he is. Like, his athleticism is nice, but I don't think that it is enough to make up for those lack of instincts. But the tackling stuff just pisses me off. Like that, like he's so big and he's able to knock guys out, but in the NFL, that's not useful. If you try to do that to Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor, you're not going to lay a big hit on him. You're getting your ass run over. Like, I just think launching yourself without wrapping up is one of the most annoying things to see with a linebacker. If you can't tackle as a linebacker, I'm sorry, but I'm out. I can't buy in. It is so annoying to watch because the linebackers are supposed to be the best tacklers in the field. They're supposed to be the best tacklers. You can make excuses for safeties and corners and defensive linemen that aren't as proficient at tackling, but linebackers are a lot of times the first person to get to the ball. And if you miss that tackle and you fill your lane and you miss that tackle, oftentimes you sell out the rest of your team to give up a big gain. I'm just not a fan of that stuff.
Don't you think the tackling can get better though?
You said he can't tackle. Is it that he can't tackle or he just doesn't? Because I think this is just a mental switch, like just in his approach to the game.
So, here's what I will say. Dan Lanning coming in as the head coach, who is a very good defensive mind and is regarded as one of the best up-and-coming coaches to take over that team. I have high expectations for Oregon, not next year, but in the future. If someone's going to get him right, it's going to be Dan Lanning. If he fixes the tackling, my argument's out the window, and I'm willing to put him in the top 5, and I'm willing to concede. But if at the end of this cycle, he still hasn't figured out how to tackle, and it's like slightly better or at the same, I just don't know how, after all this time, being such a highly rated recruit, being so athletic, that shows me he's not coachable enough to figure it out. How does that mean he's going to figure it out in the NFL? Like, if you can't listen to Dan Lanning in an SEC coaching staff that's now in Oregon, what makes you think he's going to figure out in the NFL? That's just where, like, I'm not getting it.
I wish that Noah Sewell was a defensive end so we could see a Sewell versus Sewell matchup on the next level.
That would be fun. I mean, are my arguments fair?
It's fair. No,
yeah,
it's
okay.
fair.
For sure.
Okay.
It's fair.
Okay.
It's fair.
All right, I'm glad we're on the same page. Are we all Trenton Simpson gang?
Who's Trenton Simpson?
The Clemson linebacker?
I'm about to say.
Y'all thought I had someone wild at number 1?
That would be great.
Honestly.
I mean, you had Jack Campbell last year, so
yeah,
it would be a trend for you.
Trenton Simpson is so freaking fun to watch, though. This dude is freaky athletic. You guys are talking how much you like the explosiveness of Noah Sewell. I was in awe of how explosive Trenton Simpson was. My man off the edge doesn't have any pass rushing skills, but watching him just accelerate in an instant is freaky scary to watch. He redirects. He's fluid. He is flexible. I like the way that he drops into coverage. And he's the type of player that, I mean, his instincts are pretty good, but he's somebody who maybe isn't elite instincts, but the athleticism coupled with the level of instincts and vision that he has makes him a huge threat at linebacker. I think this is a top 15 pick. I think this one's a no-brainer, and this one should not be overthought. Probably will be because of the positional placement and the Isaiah Simmons factor that we talked about on the show, but I love Trenton Simpson. I'm super high on him.
And that's the main point that I think some people are going to overthink him is, like you said, Joe, we just saw Isaiah Simmons play the same role, have roughly the same size profile, also a freaky athlete, transition to more of a stacked linebacker in the NFL, and he's just been a okay player. He hasn't been very great. Like, he hasn't been very good yet.
He's
He still has
figuring it
potential, though. Yeah, he'll figure it out, I think. Trenton Simpson, the good news is, Joe, I heard this morning, apparently they're moving him to will linebacker this year.
Even higher. Move him up the board then.
Yep. So if he's playing will, man, and I can see him stacked, and because I think that he has the aggressiveness as a player, that I think that he can do it. It's just you haven't really seen the eye discipline working from a traditional linebacker spot. But if he can do that, you're also going to couple the fact that he's 6'3", 230 with good length and explosiveness and can play man to man and short area quickness, and everything's there to be a superstar. And if he can do those things in the box that we need to see, then I agree. Top 10 player in this class for me.
Yeah. Pair those traits that you just mentioned, Ryan, with the fact that the guy has a motor. It's an energizer bunny. He doesn't take plays. This guy is just all over the place. No deficiencies in his game from an athleticism standpoint. As a blitzer, as a coverage backer, sideline to sideline speed, he run fill, gap fill. He really he wows you with his athleticism. He's jumpy at the screen. He engages you as a watcher because he's all over the place. He moves really, really explosive. I mean, we talk about explosiveness, we use that term a lot, but this guy is the epitome of explosiveness. I mean, he just gets up and goes. Really, really excited about him. I think this is, like you said, Joe, I think this is top 10, top 15 written all over it.
Easily.
He's he has a crazy frame too, because I mean, I originally, when I first looked at him, I was like, that kid's 240 because he's just so muscular and just well put together. And you're just like, oh, he's only 230 though. Like, dude is, yeah, that's how you build a linebacker in the lab. They look like Trenton Simpson. That's why I think, honestly, even though he's going to be a will this year, if he ends up being a Fred Warner type of Mike, I wouldn't doubt it. Like, I think that could happen. So
he's got a very similar play style and frame to Fred Warner. That might be a good comp for him.
And it's a good comp too, I think, because Fred Warner at BYU also played that overhang role the majority of his BYU career. So it was the same, like, can he do those things stacked? Like, we knew he can work in space, but can he do this stuff stacked? And then now you're just like, yep, he can do everything at linebacker. And that's kind of how I feel Trenton Simpson. Even though, Joe, to your point, it's like, he's not like a nuanced pass rusher, even though they use him a little bit like that. But he still had 6 sacks. Like, he's just that dude, The closing speed's silly.
Yeah, delayed blitzes, or heck, if you send him off the edge and teams are aware of him, that's a good distraction to have. Like, that's like somebody that, like, oh my God, he's so fast. If we don't chip him, or if we don't rotate our our side protection to his side, he's going to make a play. Like, that's a really good asset to have. And it's kind of funny. They even have him listed on the website as edge rusher / linebacker, not on his position, but in his bio, like in the written bio talking about him, it says, I'm really curious before we wrap. I just want to pull it up really quick. It says explosive linebacker and edge rusher who enters 2022 credited with 110 tackles and blah, blah, blah. So it says he's both in his written bio. Yeah, that's funny.
So according to Ryan Roberts, I know someone's going to take this out of context. We have Fred Warner and we have Bobby Wagner in the class. So that's good.
I love how you got that. You did mention both of those names that people are going to call
two
you
of the best
out.
linebackers we've seen in the last decade.
So are these number 1 and number 2 overall?
Who's Jack Campbell?
Jack Campbell. He's Leighton Vander Esch, man. Remember?
Oh yeah, you did give that. Which I don't know if that's a great. I don't know if that's a. It's a good comp. It's a good comp. I like the comp actually more than I think you do, but it's not a good projection for him because, like, if that's what he turns into, which is not great.
Well, I mean, Leighton Vander Esch was good before he started getting injured all the time.
Neck injuries bad.
Yeah, he was good early on. Early on in his career, he was a stud.
All right. Good note to wrap us up on. At Joe DeLeon, at Alex Skillstrap, at Rise and Draft. We've got more coming your way. After I'm back from vacation, we're going to talk defensive backs, safeties, corners, and then we should be walking right into the start of the college football season.
Mock drafts. Actually, no, we need to do the ultimate team. Forget the mock draft. We'll do the ultimate team.
No, we're gonna do both. We're gonna find time for both before we launch.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.